Fortnite is undoubtedly the hottest game right now. It's gotten plenty of hype and buzz around it, and it's generally a really fun game. However, is it already gearing up to hit a massive decline? I'm sure we're all aware that Fortnite is one of these games that comes along and generates a mad amount of excitement for a while, and then fades into thin air. I don't think that this game's gonna last several years, and if it does, that just means that somehow the game was stretched out over time. The latest big game that came onto the scene and just exploded that I can think of was Cuphead. It was a nice game, it was fun, and it did become pretty popular, and now it's already on its way out, and it hasn't even been maybe 6 months. Sure, people still play games that die off, but eventually their popularity online and even in their own community take a dip. The reasons that many people list for Fortnite beginning its decline already are pretty numerous. For one, people think that the addition of tilted towers to the map is what will lead this game into death relatively soon. Adding this to the map completely altered the gameplay permanently. It used to be even spread across the map with a few pockets of heavy traffic and popular spots. But now, you may have upwards of half or more of the lobby go to tilted towers, and it's not really big enough for that. It's really only a few buildings. If too many people go there, it just turns into absolute chaos, and you can't hear where anyone is coming from, and it makes going to other locations worse because, you know, now there may not really even be anyone there at all. Which is good for getting loot and chests and staying alive, but not really for actual gameplay. If anything, Tilted Towers has too much gameplay and too little loot and space, and the rest of the map, barring, you know, Retail Row and Pleasant Park, now have too much loot and not enough gameplay, okay? The map needs to be designed to have a perfect balance. You want to incentivize people to go to each location with good enough loot and, you know, chances of actually surviving to make sure that the gameplay is fun and engaging. Some areas of the map straight up have zero gameplay most of the time. I mean, if you go somewhere like Snobby Shores or Haunted Hills or Lucky Landing, which is a newer location, you'll be lucky if one other team or another, maybe 2 people or so, go there with you. On top of that, the circle is almost never landing anywhere away from Tilted Towers or near the center of the map, so, you know, if you're at like Lucky Landing, have fun trekking halfway across the map to make it to the circle. At that point, you can't even enjoy the loot you're getting to yourself because you may have time to land, get a few guns and some shield, but at that point, the circle has already began to close and you have like maybe 2 minutes to get to the next circle, or, you know, you're basically being killed. Issues like this have made it to where people like myself preferred the map before Tilted Towers. I mean, I think the game was more enjoyable back then. It was much more balanced, you know, barring double pump shotguns and things like that, but you could go different places on the map and actually meet people there. Another thing that is hurting the game already is the constant amount of glitches and errors that aren't network based. I will talk about those in a minute. For instance, there is recently a bug going around where when you swap weapons, you may just absolutely lose your weapon, and it'll just show up in midair and you can't use it until you swap out to another weapon and back. If you're in a shotgun battle and you lose your gun, it's over. Even if you try to quickly swap, you've probably already eaten a shotgun shell from someone, or if you're trying to pull out your AR to shoot someone rushing and it glitches, have fun getting pushed with no weapon. Also, there's an issue where your inventory will just lock up. You can't swap between anything and it's awful. I mean, I can already hear people saying it, you know, the game is early access, bugs and glitches are to be expected. Yeah, they are, but the issue is that every single patch is bringing in a new bunch of glitches that can ruin the game. And you know, if you have to wait like an entire week for the next update or patch, it's going to ruin the fun of the game for that period of time. The game's updates need to be a little bit more consistent. Yeah, they're bringing in a lot of new content and things like that consistently, but the issue is that they're bringing in too many glitches. I think this can probably be attributed to the fact that they don't have as much time as they probably should to, you know, test the update before they release it, because they try to update the game every single week, but at that point you can just either hire more staff or make it like a bi-weekly update, or break the updates down into smaller updates. And if you have to wait constantly for these bugs to be fixed and for issues to be fixed, it's going to end up killing the game. Games like this need to have the smallest amount of bugs possible in order to be great, even in early access, and unfortunately, this game has bugs and glitches that can destroy the gameplay. Gameplay obviously is the biggest concern in a video game, because if people don't want to play your game because the game is absolutely broken, you're not going to retain people. And it already doesn't help that the game is the biggest hype train in gaming for 2018 thus far. And on top of that, the network issues are absolutely ridiculous. To be fair, Fortnite has been shattering concurrent player records, and the amount of data that they're transmitting and the bandwidth and everything people are using has to be an insane number. But they have to fix these servers nearly daily, if not daily, or even twice or 3 times a day. The game is going down for a bunch of people, and you can't connect to lobbies. You can't join parties after updates because it somehow breaks that feature sometimes. Downtime is required for some more of the fixes. I mean, they need to find a way to expand their servers and make them more reliable, because I know the sale of V-Bucks and Battle Passes is making them a lot of money, and the success of the game probably did blindside them, because I'm sure they never expected this amount of people around the community of the game, but it's time for them to try and fix this issue, because it's going to kill the desire to play the game for a lot of people. The changes that they're making to the game are also upsetting a lot of the community. I mean, recent updates to shooting mechanics of the game seem to have backlash to those, and even Ninja spoke out on things like that. And I like the first shot accuracy addition because I think it makes more sense. You should be able to land your first shot regardless because, I mean, realistically you're not dealing with recoil or anything, and if you're not moving, there's not really anything in the way of you being able to shoot accurately, so that does make sense to me. But why did we have to remove the purple tactical shotgun and add a common one and change the rarity stats? Why did we have to alter the pump shotguns? There was no real point to doing that. Why is there now a homing launcher? I can already feel some of you get mad over me saying that, but it's a cool addition to the game, I'll give it that. But it's also overpowered and has nothing to counter it. The missiles last way too long in the air in my opinion. I mean, there's basically, you have an infinite amount of time it seems like to use these things. And it's entirely changed the building strats of the game. I mean, you used to be able to build a tower and peek out of it, but now you constantly have to worry about building roofs above you and checking the walls in the fort, which you know really gives you less time to actually combat anything coming at you. If you're playing duos, you're as good as screwed a lot of the time because, you know, one enemy will launch homing missiles and force you and your teammate to constantly make sure that your fort is built up. One enemy launches homing missiles and forces you and your teammate to constantly make sure your fort is built up, and the other one can just rush, and that means you're basically suddenly tasked with dealing with, you know, the building all around you and making sure that you don't get rushed. And it has pretty much nothing to counter it. You can shoot the missiles, but they're hard to do because people can control the missile. Getting this thing in a game increases your chance of winning tenfold, it seems. I mean, you take out bases, you can take out players. There's not a real counter to it. I mean, come on. You can say that the RPG and grenade launcher are in the game, but the grenade launcher, number one, is decently hard to get kills with, especially when there's a lot of building and, you know, you have to cover all of that and make sure you're getting the shots over the fort. And the RPG is pretty goddamn weak. Let's be realistic. I mean, that thing can take 10 rockets to take a base down, depending on, you know, what you have to do. And it's hard to get a kill with the RPG. The homing missile, you can hit somebody directly regardless of what they're doing because you can move the missile. There needs to be like a turret or something, like a SAM turret, I guess, that can defend your base from a few missiles. And I'm not saying it should take on like 40, but I think maybe something like I said, like a SAM turret that shoots down like 5 before it breaks would help making playing against these things a little bit more fair. The worst part about all of these changes is that they're virtually unannounced, especially changes to shooting mechanics and rarity systems. These did not come up in the newsfeed for the game, so it gave basically no time to anyone to prepare to change their strats and get used to other things in the game to replace. It just shows up whether or not fans like it. They need to make sure that they're communicating such important updates with the fans or it's going to keep upsetting people. Even though I prefer Fortnite to PUBG, that game gets a new map every few months or so, and it makes the game fresh and it keeps people interested. The weapons we get and stuff are cool, but I mean, if we got a new map, it would be so much better. Maybe even if we had a few maps in Fortnite that we could vote on pre-game, it could make everything way better. Like, I think maybe like we should see something like an archipelago style map that has like bridges connecting the islands and major cities. Obviously, we need those to be unbreakable, hopefully to make sure people can't ruin the map. Or a map that takes place entirely in a major city in the world. I mean, because people like going tilted, I understand, but it kind of ruins it for people who don't go tilted. Why not give us the best of both worlds and give us enough space to enjoy a city atmosphere and have enough loot to fight through the chaos? Also, I think a train station or a subway would be pretty interesting. You know, players would have new areas to travel and fight one another. You can go through the little tunnels and stuff and avoid the trains, but, you know, regardless, a new map would make the game much more enjoyable for longer. So, let's wrap things up. Is Fortnite already dying? Well, I mean, it's still growing in popularity for now, but I don't really think there's much more it can truly grow to. It seems like almost everyone is already playing it, and by the time the game actually releases and Save the World becomes free like it was supposed to be in the first place, people will have already gotten bored with the game and started playing like Black Ops 4, Red Dead Redemption 2, or maybe something new like a Borderlands or something that rises from nowhere. It's not literally dying yet, but as of right now, there are plenty of factors in the game that can easily lead to the decline of the game in coming weeks and months. There's also a theory going around that a meteor in the sky is going to hit Tilted Towers and destroy this area of the map, or maybe even change or create a new map entirely. And while I think this would be awesome and that it's probably possible, I'd like to see Epic Games say something about this possibility. I mean, it could definitely improve things if true, but for now it's basically a conspiracy theory. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like and subscribe if you're new, follow me on Twitter, and tell me what you think down below. And until next time guys, this is Optimus, signing out.